has been taken from me can never be replaced. My brother.
Why he speaks like this?
Because he's your father.
But my father is dead.
What? Okay, how do you want me? How do you want him to speak?
I think of all the joys we
Normal, like you.
I could have saved you, but I was weak. My grief has gone blood red with revenge. I'm stronger now. I will search the four corners of this earth, find Governor Odious, and joyously kill him.
By the Blue Bandit's honor, I swear, I will annihilate him and everything that he loves. I will destroy him! I will destroy him! Destroy him! Destroy him!
And every Spanish thing.
I thought he was Spanish.
No. He was French. Are you with me, bandits?
We will Captain!
We interrupt this program to bring you...
All right, everybody, my name is Kevin.
And my name's John.
And we are the Real Movie Guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Review, the series where we review and discuss all your favorite movies. On today's episode, we're going back to 2006, and we're taking a look at The Fall. In 1920s Los Angeles, a bedridden patient in a hospital captivates a young girl with a fantastic tale of heroes, myths, and villains on a desert island. John, this was one of the weirdest movies I think I've ever seen to date at this point. And it's funny because you're the one that approached me with this movie. You said, listen, there's this movie I really need you to watch. I think you're going to love it, but I need you to watch it. And it's really weird. And you kept prefacing how weird and strange it was. And then you proceeded to tell me about the backstory of this movie, which is almost as weird and interesting as the actual movie itself. And man, I got to tell you, after watching The Fall and we watched it together, I loved it, man. I think this movie is absolutely phenomenal, and I really can't wait to discuss it with you and talk about it, because this is a movie, if you haven't seen it, you need to watch it as soon as possible.
And the long and the short of it is, if you're a person who likes movies, if you're a person who likes stories,
Definitely.
if you're a person who likes the idea of telling a story, you're going to like this movie.
Right.
I really think it's easy enough to recommend it that flatly.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like this can appeal to multiple people, right? Especially if you go in with an open mind. I think it can appeal to definitely, of course, the cinema snob-esque crowd, especially that crowd. I think are really going to get something out of this. And I think the common crowd can too, because, right, this whole movie center is pretty much about telling stories and the origin of stories and how we interpret stories and all those kind of related matters. And I think it's really well done and executed as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, and I think, not to get too far on a total overall summary, but I think three things that are important for me for a movie to really be great are to have entertained me, and this is the most general qualifications, to have entertained me, to have elicited an emotional reaction out of me, and to have shown me something that I haven't seen before, to do something unique.
Right.
And I think it's so rare that a movie can do all three of those things. And I think that this movie, for most people, will do all three of those things.
Right. And especially in a time where we have like almost a conveyor belt of films coming out that are almost, cut and paste of the same thing, of something we've seen before. Very rarely do we see a movie actually take risks with what it's trying to do. And in another movie, actually, we'll either again talk before or after on this channel. Sometimes you take risks and they fail and they flop. And in this case, maybe financially this was a flop, but as far as a piece of cinema, I think it's a crazy success that's gone so undiscovered by a community, which I find just wild.
Right, and to go into the specifics of it, the
Yeah.
director Tarsem Singh
Mm-hmm.
made this movie over a period of years, right?
Right.
It wasn't your typical shooting schedule because he was prior to directing film, which he's also done movies like The Cell. He did, yeah, which you can see a lot of visual similarities. The
Someday we'll
costume
talk about
designer
The
who,
Cell. Someday
right.
we'll talk about The Cell. Oh.
But he
Yeah.
footed a lot of the bill himself
Mm-hmm.
and financed this movie out of his own pocket and shot elements of this movie all over the world without using much green screen, if any, that I'm aware of.
Right.
And the result that you get of all of that, you know, somebody taking the time when they're making music videos, which he did, or meeting up with the cast in this country
Right.
is you get something that's just visually unrivaled. There's no other movie that looks like this movie.
Right. So the basic premise of this movie, we will discuss that a little bit because I think it's important.
Sure.
Than some other reviews, we kind of gloss over and just give you our thoughts. But in this one, I feel like it's a little more special. So I think we need to talk just a smidge about it. As a man, he's stuck in a hospital. There's this young girl who's meeting him in the hospital, and he's telling her a story, and it's pretty much their interactions are pretty much the whole movie, right? Essentially, that's the through line of the movie, and him telling these stories to entertain her, to get things out of her, to get things done. And as the movie goes on, the fantasies get wilder and wilder because they're from her perspective. She's kind of seeing, you know, these scenarios as a young girl, and I think that's probably one of the most interesting things about it. You bringing up the fact that he was, you know, a music video director is super interesting because I think because of maybe that unique perspective, a lot of directors do start in music videos, or they used to when music videos were a thing, you know, not to date myself, be an old man, but when music videos were more of a thing, you know, you could tell he has that visual eye, but he's actually able to successfully apply it in almost every scene that's shot in this movie, especially like you said, those vast scenes where it looks like, from what I was able to gather, it's over the course of 28 countries were used in this movie. That's unheard of. That's seriously, that's unheard of. And he said there were no stages or sets ever used throughout the movie, only existing locations. If you want to be more practical or on location, this is your movie. There's nothing else that compares to it.
And I think in the business of making movies, you would say this is not smart, right? This is a dumb thing to do. And it cost him a lot of money and he didn't make it back, right?
Right.
But the reward is that you have something, again, that you will not see anything else like this. Like jumping between scenes where they're swimming through a clear blue ocean, then they're in a desert, then they're in a old hospital, then they're, you know, and there's a tactileness to them because they're real. They're not, you know, stages. It's amazing.
You can reach out and touch pretty much, I think, everything in this movie, minus maybe a few tricks he had to use here and there to kind of, I think there's one scene where they duplicate a bunch of soldiers. I think they use some kind of form of like, again, it's not green screen, but it's a form of like duplication with the camera or whatnot. But beyond that, I mean, no, darn, they use that. No, this movie's beautiful to look at. No matter what shot you're looking at, whether it's someone's butt in the distance, which was like some crazy shot, or like overhead, seeing like the giant landscape. I told you when we were watching this, I couldn't get over the amount of scope in this movie from the cinematography. Like, instead of just like, you know, in a movie when you're watching someone walk, for example, usually they show them like, cut, and then they're like at their location. He lets the camera linger on someone walking throughout an entire scene, which normally would probably bug a lot of people. But for me personally, I found that so intriguing because, again, it shows the scope of the scene of what you're looking at. If they're walking through a large desert, it looks like it's a friggin' large desert, and you're watching them walk through it. I can't think of another movie that's really like that.
And I think it highlights for you because 50% of the movie is a man who's been injured and is in bed and can't move.
Right.
And the other 50% of the movie is the imagination of a young girl interpreting these stories that he's telling her that are in these massive vistas and, you know, daring adventure going on. And the contrast there, it really shows you he's stuck, but her imagination can kind of run wild.
Right.
And also, it's kind of interesting just to see the ways that her imagination takes the things that he's saying and maybe don't line up with how he intends them.
Right.
And that kind of lends itself to some of the humor of the movie.
Right. And it's interesting because you bring up it's a 50-50 split. And it's funny because I think one can't exist without the other with this movie, and that's why I think it's so incredibly successful with what's been done here. Literally him and the girl, their interactions, that's like the heart and soul of the story that's bringing through this through line. If that through line wasn't there, the most fantastical scenes of imagination that we're seeing wouldn't matter whatsoever, right? And then vice versa, these fantastical scenes that we're seeing, if we don't have the other through line, then it doesn't make sense either. One needs to have, it would be boring, right? If it was just him and the girl in the hospital telling her a story, if we don't have these crazy visual effects like this, it's super boring and not interesting. But again, they work so well off each other, and it's extremely well paced.
And it's believable,
yeah,
because of how elaborate and lush and wild everything looks, that she really cares about hearing this story and cares about the characters in it. And we didn't mention yet, but the young actress, I don't think she's really acted in much at all since then.
I couldn't find anything, no.
Was not a trained actor.
No.
And she seems to be having real reactions to the things that she's being told, whether she's overjoyed, upset, laughing, confused, very often confused, because she has a language barrier with Lee Pace, who plays the main character.
Right.
And all of these things feel 100% real to me.
No.
And I believe, a lot of them probably were real. There probably were times where she didn't understand what he was saying, and they just left it in the movie.
And it's funny because the one thing which isn't done nowadays either with film is shooting a movie in chronological order. So the hospital scene that's in this movie, the through line for pretty much essentially the main story, is shot in chronological order. So over the course of 6 weeks, the young actress, she grew taller and her English improved throughout the scene. So as you see, as she starts in the movie, like she barely knows any English, slowly she gets better, like she would actually naturally if they were speaking and spending all this time together. It also shows how she like lost her teeth, and then they were able to keep it actually going consistently because again, it's shot in chronological order. I think again, that's also another type of, like you said, like realism to this movie, that if that wasn't there, I don't even know how successful maybe that story would be, because again, it feels like their bond is growing because it actually is. You're watching their bond as they're filming this movie grow on screen.
Yeah, it's just an amazing movie. And after we watched it together, we were all kind of just talking to each other about how is Lee Pace not a leading man in more movies after this? Because
One
I
of
think
the great
he
mysteries
did
of the world, my friend.
Yeah, he did. He played that role amazingly, and he played off of an untrained actor in the other lead role. That, I mean, it was just extremely believable.
Right, Yeah, it is. It's just one of those things. Like just the chemistry in this movie is just so fantastic for those two characters. And again, it has to matter. And there's even a scene, I don't want to give spoilers because I do encourage you all to watch it, but towards the end of the movie, there's there's something that happens, an incident, and I didn't really know what to expect. Usually when I watch a movie, I'm like, well, this is going to happen, and that's kind of the end of it. And this, I remember looking at you, I'm like, is that it? That could happen. Because again, you're watching something so, I guess, believable, right? That I can't predict it. It's not the typical cinema where I can see, oh, it's going to end here and it'll be da, da, da. You really don't know that, I think. And I think that unknowing, because of maybe just how strange and odd the movie is to some extent, makes it that much more interesting too. Because again, the predictability is kind of thrown out the window when we're watching this crazy story.
Yep. To be honest, I don't really have much else to say. I love the movie.
It's hard. It's one of those movies where I think you just kind of have to experience it. It really is.
Yes.
It's one of those movies that I think I have a quote, which I'll save it for, but we'll go ahead. Let's throw our scores on this one.
Sure.
I'm going to go ahead and give The Fall a 9.5 out of 10. I really do love this movie. I would almost dare to give it a 10, but I gotta hold back just a little bit. I do think there are some just really strange scenes and stuff like that. And again, but you can't really falter it for that. It's still a fantastic movie. It's an experience none like any other. And I think it was Roger Ebert in his review. He actually did give it 4 out of 4. So he gave it a perfect score on his review. And he said, you should watch this movie and just to experience it, because there's nothing else like it. And that's what I would argue too. I think you just have to watch this movie, experience it. I think you'll love it. I really think you do. If you have any appreciation for, cinema, for storytelling, even just something really strange and endearing, I think this movie really will land on all those for you. It comes with a high recommend from me. John, how about you? What do you think?
So I agree with you, naturally, and I think that you know, I would not give it a perfect 10 either. I'd probably give it a 9.7 out of 10. It's one of
Yeah.
my favorite movies. I don't think it's the best movie ever made.
Sure, and there's
There
a
are
difference,
moments,
absolutely.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. There are moments that pull you out of it a little bit, as engaging as the main characters are and as intriguing as the fantasy is.
Mhm.
There are moments that are just a little weird that just pull you out of it and you go, oh, what was that, right?
Right.
But the bravery of a director to put together a movie and leave in some stuff that doesn't really make any sense, is weird, is
Yeah.
strange, and you know, you just don't see movies like this, and you probably never will again because it probably bankrupted the person who made it.
Yeah.
But that being said, he got it out and it's available and you can watch it, and I think everyone should.
Yeah, it is streaming on, I think it's on Amazon Prime. You can actually stream it now. If you are in Australia and watching our video, lucky you, you can buy it on 4K. And I'm super jealous and probably going to have to import this. Because, again, this movie really is that special. And I think it's that important. And hopefully it isn't one of those movies that get forgotten. You know, sometimes there is like a thing where we forget about movies. And, you know, this only came out in 2006. I know we're in 2025 right now, but it's really not that long ago in the grand scheme of things. And when you watch this movie with its, you know, natural setting and its characters and everything that's presented here, it's all there. You know, I don't know how many movies you can say from like the mid 1990s on that where everything is actually in the shot. When you watch and see something weird in this movie, it's there. It's interesting. It's catching your eye. Whether it works or not, that's another conversation. But the fact that it's actually there and you're able to see it and find some kind of crazy enjoyment out of it, I think it's special, you know, and I think The Fall is really that good. And thank you, John. I'm really glad you showed me this. Otherwise, I don't know.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
But what we need to know down in the comments below, what do you guys think? Is The Fall that good? Is it one of those like Roger Ebert must-see movies of all time? I think it might be. I think if you were to craft some kind of list, maybe top 100 movies, let's say, it'd show up on there. Definitely. It would definitely show up on there for me. What do you guys think? Is it that good? Are we talking out of our butts? You know, do we not know what we're talking about? Is it kind of too weird? What are some of your favorite scenes if you did enjoy the movie? There's a lot in here that I really liked. I don't even know where to begin actually with it because I think it really is that good. Whether it's just her interrupting him, changing the story, I think those are some of my favorites. I think when Lee Pace is actually, it's not Lee Pace, it's like her father is the main character, and then he changes it to Lee Pace like suddenly in the middle of the scene. It's jarring things like that I find really enjoyable and endearing about this movie. But I need to know from you guys, what do you guys think? But we are The Real Movie Guys. My name's Kevin. That guy is John. Thank you all so much for joining us for this episode. We'll see you in the next one.
If you guys like what you've seen here today, consider giving this video a like and leaving your thoughts in the comments below. If you want to stay up to date with everything Real Movie Guys related, make sure to hit that subscribe button and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And don't forget, all you audio listeners at home, we are available on many podcasting platforms. Just search The Real Movie Guys, you should pop right up. Thank you again all so much for joining us on this episode of The Real Review. We are The Real Movie Guys. Real guys, real movies, real thoughts. Catch you next time.